Very sad story. A young man going through a mental health crisis goes to jail. He then is killed by the police, okay? Let's put up the picture of the young man and the mom. All right, this story has a lot of twists and turns. A Wisconsin mother has filed a federal civil lawsuit against the local sheriff's department after her son died in police custody for a mental health crisis. You're looking at Sherry James and her son, Malcolm James. A police report shows that James, 27, called 911 last May for help because he was suicidal. When the police went to his home, they arrested James on arson. Now, why did they arrest him on arson? Because he reportedly was setting his clothes afire, all right? He was trying to kill himself, he was suicidal. 4 days later, he was dead inside of the county jail. Let me give you some background to this whole story. Racine County authorities said James was on suicide watch and continuously smashed his head into a concrete wall and died during a medical event in the jail. Now, I got some more context here. During the scuffle, when police were trying to restrain James, a muffled James told officers to get off of him and he could not breathe, okay? They were engaged in physical combat with Mr. James. At one point, Mr. James moved from side to side while he told officers to get off of him. Another officer joined the other in pressing down on his neck in response to his movement. A total of 7 others surrounded James while his neck was restrained for 3 minutes and 6 seconds. 2 of them tried to remove the taser prongs before they realized that he was unresponsive. Court documents and video show. The video shows James' body was limp when the officers released the hold on his neck. Why are you even using a taser for a mentally ill individual? Where's your humanity? Where's your decency? If somebody tells you they cannot breathe, breathing is important. Why did not one cop, not one, say, let's ease up a little here, okay? Not one, there's more. His autopsy shows he died of asphyxia. No charges have been filed against the officers involved in his death. No surprise there, right? Let me go over the 5 correctional officers who did this. Christian Brindis, Josu Davalos, Justin Gudez, Jonathan Koski, and Michael Sulis, and 1 sergeant, Justin Brands. Now remember, the sergeant is the person in charge of the Racine County Sheriff's Office. Remain on paid administrative leave. Crystal Christensen, a nurse contracted by the county jail, had her security revoked soon after James' death, an action that essentially terminated her employment. So they're making responses as if obviously something went horribly wrong here, right? You got people being fired. You got the command staff member on administrative leave. You have the other officers that are involved. They are no longer at the department per suspension. His autopsy shows he did die because he couldn't breathe, just like he said. He said, I can't breathe. Autopsy confirmed it. No charges have been filed against the officers. Malcolm's mother, Sherry James, is suing the county sheriff's department, which runs the jail, the deputies, and the nurse involved. They are in charge. That sheriff's office is in charge of all of those entities, and the company from where the nurse was outsourced for 20 million. This was a major contract. Let's put up a picture of the sheriff. Christopher Schmalling, all right? That's the sheriff. He's the guy in charge. Buck stops with him. Now, where are we at on this case? Okay, not a whole lot of movement. Not a whole lot of movement. So we're gonna try to change that. Remember, they've already arrested a man who tried to kill himself, who should be under a mental health provider rather than the county jail system. But if he's inside of the county jail system then has an actual responsibility to provide medical care, appropriate, proper medical care, even if it's healthcare, But once again, I'm sure the policy is right on paper. I'm sure on paper, they have this policy that says, when this happens, here's the protocol you have to follow. But do you think they followed the protocol? Of course, they did not follow the protocol. They did not follow the protocol and somebody is now dead. That is likely the reason why the contracted nurse was fired. That's likely the reason, because protocol did not or was not followed. But here's the other side. When you don't follow protocol and somebody dies, people have to be held accountable to that. There has to be a real penalty for that. And the only time that doesn't happen, David, is when you don't value the life that has been exterminated because of your lack of following the policy.
Yeah, look, courage for Mrs. Cheryl James. I mean, I salute her courage and trying to hold everybody accountable in the system. And I've been to Wisconsin a fair number of times, and this is another case where the people of Wisconsin are a lot better than the police who represent them. Because I know most people in Wisconsin, in the Midwest for that matter, if they had heard of somebody who was suicidal, who was setting themselves on fire, cutting themselves, or whatever he was doing, they would drop what they're doing, go over and say, what can I do to help? Can I give you a hug? Can I help you? Can I escort you to some mental health? And I know a lot of people, if they had been responsible for taking this gentleman after he'd been taken to some sort of institution, instead of putting him on a suicide watch and somehow trying to keep him from banging his head, they would have put him in either a padded cell. Again, people would have gone out of their way to help him, to show some compassion. Instead, I'm gonna bet these were white police officers. They didn't care because this was a young black man who wanted to kill himself. And so they're just like, they're troubled by this. And instead of showing compassion and any empathy, they are heartless. And that is not how most people in Wisconsin or the rest of the United States operate. And that is why police are such a problem across the United States.
Yeah, just imagine that, brother. Just imagine your son is suicidal, police come, okay, he gets arrested. As a parent, you're saying, not the best, but at least my son is safe, right? They will at least make sure he doesn't kill himself. And then they end up killing your son. They end up killing your suicidal son that you were trying to save.